Hey everyone, it's Natalie. I hope you guys are doing okay. I know it's a really tough time that you're dealing with, and I'm really sorry that you're having to go through this. Today's message is just gonna try to give you guys a little bit of hope. I know you're in a situation where you don't know if you should stay or leave. And I know a lot of my videos I share the things that I've done to save my marriage and the tactics that I've used to, discredit the narcissistic mother-in-law and things like that. But there's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself. Is the marriage worth saving? Is your husband waking up? Is your husband protecting his mother and not his spouse? Is he not clinging to you the way he should? Is he clinging to his mother? And is his mother using him as a mouthpiece? Unfortunately, many ladies that I have been talking to throughout the few months are either on the verge of divorce, separation, or they are divorcing. When you are dealing with a husband who will not protect their wife, the question you have to ask yourself, is it worth, staying, unfortunately. I'm not a big opponent of divorce, but when you are in a situation where your husband no longer respects you, your marriage is over. If you are in a situation where your husband will no longer protect you, but instead make excuses all the time for his mother and leave you behind and not respect what you have to say, your marriage is over. At this point, if you are dealing with this, there is nothing you can say or do that's ever going to change the way that your husband behaves. And the question you have to ask yourself, is this the life you want to live for the rest of your life? And I know a lot of you guys have children, and you think, well, I'm staying for the kids. But with the women that I have talked to who have stayed for the kids, the children now are realizing that they are being traumatized by their very own father, or it could be the mother. And because you're a good person and you want to stay with your husband for the children, what you fail to realize is that you are causing trauma to those children. I can tell you that you leaving your spouse to stop the traumatization of your children is the best thing you can do. It makes you a good mother. When you have a husband who will not stand side by side with their wife to protect the abuse that their mother bestows or betrays or allows it to happen to you, then the husband is blatantly telling you he does not care what your opinions, what your decisions, how you feel, what your psychological state or emotional state is. He is loudly telling you only his mother's matter. And if society, this is the thing I hate about society, is they make it seem as though staying for the children is the best thing to do even when you're with an abusive spouse or an abusive mother-in-law. It's not. I come from a dysfunctional family, and I can tell you as a child, I wish my parents divorced long before they did. There was times that my mother was in and out of the house, and I'm sorry, Mom, if you see this, that I used to beg my father not to let her back because I could no longer handle it. It caused me suicidal thoughts. It caused me great harm and low self-esteem. I isolated myself. I didn't make friends at school. I got bullied at school. There was a lot of things that happened because when the child is seeing the mother and the father continuously fight, it's not good for the child. You're no longer there to make the child happy. You're there, unfortunately, traumatizing the child. And the reason why I'm making this video is because in the past few months, every woman I talk to says, I'm not staying for my husband, I'm staying for my child. And I'm not going to mention their names, but I've had several women tell me that their child has come to them and told them that they no longer care if their father is living with them. And if a child is coming to you and telling you that they no longer care if their father is in the house or not, should speak volumes to you as a mother. You are no longer protecting that child, and instead you're staying thinking it's best for the child, but you're actually causing trauma to the child. So these are very hard decisions that you have to sit and think about. What is best for the child? Is it staying in this abusive relationship? Or is it leaving, giving the child a fresh slate, giving the child hope, giving the child a new start to get away from trauma? And someone who came from a house like that, sorry, I'm trying not to cry. Seeing my parents fight all the time made me suicidal. It made me feel like I didn't matter. That my parents fighting was more important to my parents than I was. And looking back, I don't think I would have had the trauma I had if my parents would have just divorced long before they did. And because I experienced trauma, and a lot of people don't know this, and it's hard to share, I came up with coping mechanisms. And I remember one day, because my parents had been fighting so much, and they were sleeping in separate bedrooms at this time, that one day my parents got in such a big fight that my stomach got upset. So I went into the bathroom and threw up because my stomach was so upset. And because my parents didn't divorce, every time my stomach got upset, I would go in the bathroom and force myself to throw up because I had that memory of the first time I threw up and how much better I felt after I threw up. And so for 20 plus years, every time I got upset, I went into the bathroom and forced myself to throw up so I would feel better. Because I did that for so many years and I learned that behavior, knowing that if I threw up, I would feel better, that the stress would be relieved, I destroyed my teeth. You see these 4 teeth? You see how perfect and beautiful? I bet a lot of y'all see me in my videos and you're like, God, Natalie has beautiful teeth. You know what happened? Because I did that, I had to get 4 caps. These 4 caps and root canals on my teeth. I had to get caps and root canals on my teeth from the years of throwing up because of stress. It's undiagnosed stress disorder. So it wasn't bulimia. I wasn't throwing up because of food. I was throwing up because of stress. And through the years, it damaged my teeth so bad on the back side, you couldn't see it so much in the front, but they became very thin, that at 33 years old, I had to get 4 root canals and caps put on the front of my teeth because of the years of stress throwing up. And I think that if my parents had just went ahead and divorced instead of dealing with the fighting, I would have my real teeth. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are you causing harm and damage to your children by staying in a relationship with either a narcissistic man or a man who does not protect his wife, and the children bear witness to that? And so because society makes it seem as though you'll damage the child if you divorce, and society makes you believe that you have to stay married even if you're unhappy, is a total lie. And most counselors nowadays, not back then, but nowadays, will tell you that divorce is better for the child than it is for them to bear witness to abuse. Physically, psychologically, and emotional abuse. And if you are with a man who will not stick up for you, you cannot wake up, because most of them are golden child that are like this. The child sees it all. They see it all. And so it's not only about you. And I hate to make this video saying this, because a lot of it does have to do with you not being protected by your husband. But if you have children, they bear witness to all of it. And these children are very smart. They see what's going on. See, the problem with a lot of us is they see the infighting between me and or you and your husband, and for whatever reason, we think that the children aren't being affected by the abuse of the mother-in-law or the abuse of the husband, or it could be your wife. But the children see it. And over time, the child sees that the mother is being abused. And it could be that the father's being abused too. And the children wake up to the fact that there is something going on in the family where the other parent is not protecting the parent that is hurt. Okay? And so eventually what happens, now, well, let me finish this statement. Eventually what happens is the child will wake up and will start protecting the abused parent. And then they see how the narcissistic mother-in-law treats their mother. And this is why a lot of times the child, your child, does not care for their grandparent because they see how hurt the mother is, or if it's the father. And when you have a child who sees what's going on, what happens is they grow resentment towards the other parent who is not protecting the other one, the other parent, their mom or dad or whoever. And so then the child starts growing animosity towards the other parent and starts to not like the other parents because they see the unfairness that is going on. And so, and I've read many comments where women and men are saying, I left because my child wanted me to leave. I left because I didn't want my child to bear witness to this anymore. I left because my child asked me to leave. And so if you are staying with your partner who has a narcissist as a parent because of your child, you are not doing anything but disservice. You cannot fix, especially a golden child who will not wake up. And like I say in my videos, it can take years to wake up your partner to the truth. But if that partner is being abusive towards you, slandering you in front of children, pulling the child aside and manipulating them into believing that you're the crazy one, that grandma's is treating your mom right or your dad right, that your mom has mental conditions and things like that, because that's what they do. The other parent will do to the child to manipulate that child onto their side. When you're dealing with a partner like that, there's not enough time in the world that will ever change that person. And if you are dealing with a golden child, I hate to tell you this, but it will never change. They will always be the mouthpiece to their mother, and the abuse will continue. And matter of fact, when you do start standing up to this person, what they do is they start having threats of, well, I'm leaving you, I'm divorcing you, even though they don't have the intentions in doing so. What happens is they get the other partner, the mother-in-law and the husband or the wife, whoever, get scared, get intimidated by you for actually standing your ground for once, because they're so used to you going along, being in submission, putting up with the abuse, that when you start educating yourself in narcissistic abuse, in NPD, and you start changing your behaviors and start using my approaches and start using the tactics that I have taught you, they don't know what to do because they are so used to you reacting. And that reaction, what they do is they take that and then they go smear you to everyone and say, see, look at her reaction. Remember when I told you she's like that? Look, I triggered her, and look at her. And that's the goal, is they're trying to trigger you. But when you start using the tactics that I have taught you, they don't know what to do. You put them in a tailspin because they're so used to being able to smear you from your negative reactions that when you turn stone cold towards them and you flip the script on them and you start treating them the way they treat you, which is reverse psychology on them, they are surprised because they've been getting away with it for maybe a decade or more, that when you change because you've educated yourself and you figured them out, they figure out that you figured them out. So then the threats come. I'm leaving you. I'm cutting your credit card off. I'm doing this. Whatever it is to get you back in line, even when they don't have any intention in doing so. They are just doing this to get you back in submission. Okay? Now, it's 22 minutes. You know what? I'm going to do another video on this. But now, the thing is, when you change your whole approach on how you handle your husband, who probably is a narcissist in some cases, and you change the tactics on the way you approach their mother-in-law with no more reacting and staying calm and staying silent, they honestly are so caught off guard that they will use every manipulative trick in the book to get you back to where they had you before. Okay? When it comes to dealing with a scapegoat or a forgotten child, it is easier for them to wake up. Now, I have read in a comment where someone said, my husband was the golden child and he cut contact and he is no longer in contact with his mother. What? Now, maybe he was, but that's a very rare case. But what I can say is I find it hard to believe that that person actually had a husband who was a golden child. They may have identified him as a golden child because the mother was manipulating that child and giving him gifts and favoritisms to get him in line, to get her in line, his wife in line, okay? So he probably really wasn't a golden child, but something happened to where the mother all of a sudden started treating him like a golden child because they saw that the wife was not tolerating that anymore. And they figured, well, if I start treating my child like a golden child, I will be able to get him to get rid of her. And so they start doing nice things for that person, showing that person that, look, I'll be here for you. You don't need her. And so that's the other thing too, is that a lot of you women out here, you read literature, and just because certain things in the literature say that, oh, your husband's the golden child, not the scapegoat, doesn't mean that that is necessarily true. in the forgotten, in the scapegoat, and in the golden child, there are some similarities that happen in those definitions, but it doesn't mean that they are labeled a golden child, okay? And the narcissist also will will reverse the scapegoat into a golden child for their own self-serving mechanisms, right? So there's things that the narcissist renames the scapegoat a golden child because she has an agenda. So the woman that did contact me and say, well, my husband was a golden child and he is now no contact with his mom, you might want to research a little bit more on that, or you might want to see the agenda behind the fact that the narcissistic mother made him a golden child. Now, just because you believe he's a golden child doesn't necessarily mean he is. There could be something behind that agenda, okay? I'm going to end this. We'll get in more into this. But listen, ladies, keep staying in a marriage with a narcissistic man or with a narcissistic in-law because of children is not a good thing to do, because you are causing trauma to that child, okay? It is better to leave if you are in an abusive situation than it is to stay for your child. Peace, love, harmony. I'm going to do another video. I hope everyone's having a good day. Okay, bye guys.